This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast.
I'm hurt, Mama. Hurt bad.
He draws Emmeline outside. When she follows, he grabs her.
Want to know what I did to your boy? I cut out his heart and I ate it. But don't worry, I'm letting you off easy, 'cause you ain't blood.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. I'm Alan Katz. Gil will join us momentarily. First, the drill, hell, it probably feels like a drill going into your skull at this point. Please hit the like button if one's available to you. Even better, subscribe. That way you'll know all about Are You Afraid, the first new anything that Gil and I have created together in 25 years. It's a horror black comedy streaming series about flesh-eating ghouls with the ooky, ironic tang of Tales from the Crypt.
Flesh-eating ghouls. For a long time, we humans have been deeply afraid of vampires and zombies.
Stand for paramedics.
Fair enough, vampires and zombies are scary. But neither vampires nor zombies
Are real.
Flesh-eating ghouls, on the other hand, are real. They've been living in our shadow for thousands of years, hunting us, feasting on us, treating us
Like food.
But some ghouls are tired of living in the shadow of their food. Those ghouls have decided it's time to leave the shadow.
And put us in our place where we belong.
On the menu,
It's an eat or be eaten world.
Flavored by fear, filled with the monster we should have been afraid of all along.
Flesh-eating ghoul.
Are you afraid?
Better be.
Coming soon.
we've told the Dead Easy story here a couple of times. It's how the Bordello of Blood fiasco began. Universal was gung-ho for Dead Easy 1 minute. Hell, they sent us to New Orleans for 6 weeks to start prepping the movie, and then suddenly the next 3 weeks before the start of principal photography. In fact, Universal pulled the plug. Dead Easy's dead, they said. Forget New Orleans. Go to Vancouver instead and make a piece of shit you've never heard of called Bordello of Blood instead. It's not exactly how they put it, but that's kind of how they put it. It's definitely how it worked out. Don't get me started. Let's talk about Dead Easy. Where Dead Easy is concerned, when we got the commission to do what were supposed to be 3 Tales from the Crypt feature films, there were a bunch of scripts floating around. There was the script that became Demon Knight. There was From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yep.
How early into the mix did Dead Easy come?
Oh, wow. That's a good question.
I don't remember.
Nor do I. I don't think it was early on because I think we were searching and we were looking, and Dusk Till Dawn was gone pretty quickly. I don't think that was even available for a blink of an eye. I think we saw it and we're about to look at it and they said, "Oh, it's gone." And I think Dead Easy came across our desk shortly thereafter. And I think we were both taken by it, and taken mainly by the characters.
It was too late to have been the first feature.
It was.
But then I'm just trying to remember in the chronology, was Demon Knight already committed? Were we aware of this script? I'm trying to remember.
I think Demon Knight was on its way. I think, did Scott have anything to do with finding Dead Easy?
He might have. I don't remember.
I don't remember how we got it or when we got it, but I'm pretty sure it was after it was decided that Demon Knight was set and Ernest was going to direct Demon Knight, and we would do the next one.
That seems right. And somewhere about then it floated up, and that was such an appealing script. It was the change of pace that we certainly wanted the second picture to be.
Yeah, it was much more of a thriller than just straight out horror. and blood and guts. So, and it had some interesting characters. And the one character that, I think we both really loved was the Harlequin, because
A
oh
great
my God,
villain.
it was visually, it was exciting because it was like, well, it's not a real character, but how are we going to manufacture him and how do we have him interact? But it was a great character, and we thought, my God, there's a franchise here because of that character. There's a toy line here because of that character. I mean, it met all the requirements of outside storytelling of why you might want to do this movie. But in addition to that, it was great storytelling because he was a great and thrilling bad guy. And yet you had a story about a young boy and his father.
In peril. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it was it was all within a family, so there was really
Yeah.
interesting dynamics every which way you looked at it, in a really cool environment in the middle of the swamps outside of
Yeah.
New Orleans. It was
I think, I think we
atmosphere.
also, I think you and I responded to that as well because it was so different from what Demon Knight was going to look like, and it was so different from anything we had done on Tales from the Crypt in terms of shooting in New Orleans and in and around swamps, and even
Yeah,
replicating some of the parade.
exactly. So we were going from the desert to the swamps. I mean, it was, and both really great crypt like locations, the swamp especially.
Yeah.
The I know I don't think we ever knew anything about the author J.P. Kelly.
No, I don't. It's funny. I've thought about him over the years of who he was, what happened to him. That's why it's so strange how we got the script. I don't know how we got the script. That's why I
Yeah,
was thinking maybe Scott had something to do with it because he was reading so many scripts for Donner in those days. I think he may have come across it and thrown it to us and said, "What do you think?"
hmm. Hmm. He would be the most likely place for it to come from. I can't think of anyone else or anywhere else it would or might have come from.
Well, it could have come from an agent, but I think if it did, we would know more about J.P. Kelly. J.P. Kelly, if you're out there and you're listening to this, would you contact us? We would really love to have a conversation with you.
Just love to know who you are.
Yeah,
You wrote a really terrific script that it set all this stuff in motion. Damn you! It has become lore. The fact that it did not get made, why it did not get made. I did a little bit of research. Here's just some of the stuff that's been written about what happened. According to Bloody Disgusting, co-writer Gilbert Adler had an interview with Fangoria in 1996, where he said that Dead Easy ended up becoming too scary. As they rewrote it, the film became more intense while much of the humor was lost. Adler said that they always felt that an important part of Tales from the Crypt was that it would scare people, then make them laugh. According to rumor, the script, which called for a large cast of African Americans, ended up being produced with a cast of entirely white actors due to being deemed more commercially viable. So even though the film was finished, producer Joel Silver stepped in and locked it away out of fear of being labeled a racist.
that's a
Again,
great story. I like that story.
and then it says, again, that's just a rumor. Well, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, absolutely none of that was true. None
Oh,
of it. It was
oh
never
my.
made. And Joel worrying about him being a racist, he would have loved that.
This is from the website MovieWeb, which is, hey, this is written by Cameron Bolton, published December 9th, 2022. This was in advance of when we did the script reading that we are about to play here on our podcast.
Well, Cameron, you got it all wrong. Sorry, friend.
Yeah, the rumors of it getting made in any way, shape, or form. Oh, if only we had had the chance.
Yeah.
Alas, anyway, I don't know for sure if it would have been the stepping stone to other things for us. Certainly, that was the aspiration.
Well, we'll never know that, but I mean, it was certainly a better script than the one we ultimately made, which I won't even mention the name because we've done so much about that. But Dead Easy would have been, it would have been whatever we would have done to it, it would have been very Tales from the Crypt, and it would have been very scary, and it would have been very funny, and we would have created a franchise with a terrific bad guy.
The strange last twist is we seem to have taken a few things from Dead Easy with us onto the movie project that dare not speak its name. The setting for Bordello was Southern, was plantation-like. And I cannot tell you why, as we've discussed previously. I have no idea why. I mean, why that environment? There's no particular.
Well, as soon as we were told we were making it in Vancouver, of course, it just rang from both of our lips that, oh my God, let's make it Southern.
The furthest thing from where we were going to make it.
Perhaps is his name Cameron, the guy you just told me wrote this article. Perhaps he has an answer, or made a rumor that he could tell us about.
Well, as always, the more we talk about Dead Easy, the more uneasy it gets. With that in mind, hey, here's the table read.
Some movies become legends without ever being made. That's Dead Easy. 3 weeks before principal photography, the studio stuck a knife in its back and then buried the body in an unmarked grave. Oh, sounds like one of my episodes. So tonight, kiddies, we're going to bring Dead Easy back to life. Like the Frankenstein monster, we're going to raise it from the dead. And to introduce our stellar cast of actors, here's Jason Stein, one of the dads from the Crypt. Oh, I adore the podcast. They review episodes of Tales from the Crypt and give parenting advice. Funny, I always thought every episode of Tales from the Crypt was parenting advice. All right, kiddies, here's Jason.
Thank you. So let's introduce our amazing cast for tonight.
Recording in progress.
Oh, carry on.
First, we have Sean Astin reading the part of Lloyd. Then we have Jake Busey reading the part of Jimmy DeRoe. And now we have Tia Carrere will read Ruby Tyler. And then we have Brett Cullen reading the part of Armand DeRoe. Mr. John Kassir will read the Harlequin. Sounds like a part for comedy relief. And then we have the lovely Chelsea Rebecca will read Danny. And finally, we have Leslie Zemeckis for Emmeline.
Thank you, Jason. Well, kiddies, there's nothing more to say except lights. Okay, no lights. Camera! Yeah, no camera either. But one thing there will be plenty of. Action!
Fade in. It's night. There's swamp as far as the eye can see. We drift past open water, past stands of cypress, their pointy knees poking through the black water, past huge oaks heavy with Spanish moss. We hear a low animal growl, ugly, dangerous, getting louder. We pass a half-submerged tombstone and another. Both have strange writing on them. We move on to a marshy thrust of dry land. The growl gets even louder. Past more tombstones, landing finally at a small drilling rig, the thing doing the growling. Under a crummy, insufficient work-light, 2 men drill the soft earth. One of them stops. That gets the attention of the 2 other men standing nearby. Perez wears a look of dread. Beside him, Rogers looks up from his maps and aerial photos.
What the fuck now? You just drill. You ain't gonna be nighttime forever.
I've changed my mind. We shouldn't be drilling here.
Oh, again with that. Fuck you. I got data says there's a shitload of something under this fucking swamp. If it's all, I want it. So you tell these fucking mooks to get a fucking move on or I ain't paying a fucking one of you.
That works. The shovels go down again and stop. One of the workmen gestures wildly at the other.
What the fuck is it now?
The bit's stuck. They don't want to go any further. They're scared.
You tell these fucks to drill or else.
Or else what?
Rogers pulls a gun from the back of his waistband.
Or else.
You got to understand. Parts of this swamp, they're different.
Rogers cocks the gun, points it at the two workmen.
Which one should I kill first?
Well, you see, what's under here is... Oh!
Rogers shoots Perez dead. Points the gun at the others. They stare back. Rogers smirks and blows them both away. As the gunshots echo across the swamp, we cut to a rickety old shack on stilts, built in the middle of the swamp. As the gunshots echo in the distance, a weathered old man carrying a lantern emerges. Armand Deroux's in his 70s, but there's something timeless about him. He heard the shots. He knows what they mean.
Oh, fuck.
He heads toward the beat-up little boat tied to his beat-up little dock. Back at the drilling site, Rogers struggles to get the drill bit unstuck. Whatever it hit, it's hard and deep. The bit splutters, whines. Suddenly a gush of black shoots up, bursts of spectral flame, and the sound of... Wait for it. Tinkling bells, if you can hear it. Teeth gritted, Rogers bears down on the drill. It spins, digs into something even harder, and catches. The whole drill unit shivers this time. Rogers steps back. The drill continues to shake. Whatever it hit, it isn't oil. The tinkling bells get louder. Rogers knows he's fucked.
Oh, shit!
A fireball shoots from the wellhead and explodes. But there's something strange about the explosion. It has a shape to it, an elongated human shape with arms and legs. Just like that, it's gone. Back at Deroux's camp, Deroux has just cast off his lines. He sees the fireball rising above the trees in the distance. Bad just got worse. Dissolved to 2 months later. We're inside a computer game called Dead Easy. It features a villainous Harlequin character, a key component of the visuals, an old red pickup truck, and a swamp. We're at the offices of the Bose Arts Software Company. An assortment of computer geeks sits around the boardroom table. At the far end is the boss, Jake Bose. He's early 30s, brash and direct. A few chairs to his right, Lloyd Harrison, 35, regards his co-workers dispiritedly. Lloyd's a good man with a complicated past, more complicated than he realizes.
You hated it.
Cool.
I love the title. Dead Easy. I think it'll sell.
Just not with this game.
The graphics are beautiful. It's got potential.
Let's just put a bullet in it right now.
Well, it just needs work. It's no big deal. I think the bad guy's the problem.
You didn't like him?
Well, he's not threatening enough.
He scares the shit out of me.
Maybe if we went a little bit more traditional.
And what? Make him a demon?
Doesn't have to be a demon.
You could make him a ghoul or something.
Well, it's getting late. Why don't we just let everybody else go on home and you and I can continue this?
The magic words. The rest of the table is heading for the door.
Hey, have a nice break, everybody. Now, don't go too crazy. It's not like you've never been to Mardi Gras before.
The room empties.
Okay. The game's a disaster.
I brought you here because you're one of the most imaginative programmers I've ever known. I mean, when you said you wanted to create a game, I said, do it.
I should just go back to programming.
No, you should be patient. You say this Harlequin character is frightening. Okay, so why is he frightening?
He kills people.
So does smoking and drinking. Maybe a better question is, why does he scare you? I want you to go home to your little boy, take him out, and show him Mardi Gras he'll never forget.
I hate Mardi Gras. I've always hated Mardi Gras. I'll try.
Good. When you walk in here next week, I'll expect the answer to my question.
We're at Lloyd's house that night. It's a classical Garden District home with lots of wrought iron. Lloyd pulls up in his Bronco, turns off the ignition, and sits for a moment. A couple of revelers pass by.
God, I hate Mardi Gras.
A few minutes later, Lloyd stands at the front door with Mrs. Sanchez, his housekeeper.
Danny was a very good boy today, Mr. Harrison. He ate all his dinner.
He hands her some cash.
Well, that's a first. What was the occasion?
Mr. Harrison, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I think Danny feels lonely.
I spend as much time with him as I can, Mrs. Sanchez.
It's not that. He needs friends. When I told him that, he said, but I have a new friend.
A new friend? Really? That's great.
Except he's not real. Good night, Mr. Harrison.
She goes. As he closes the front door, Lloyd hesitates. He hears Danny's voice coming from inside.
You want to play with my computer? That's okay, I'll show you how. It's easy, I've got lots of games.
In the front room, Danny sits on the floor surrounded by toys. He's a sweet little boy, extremely intelligent, and as Mrs. Sanchez said, lonely. He stares at nothing in particular as he talks.
It's okay if you don't know how to read. That's why you play the game. Where'd you go? Harley?
Hey, Dano.
Hey, Dad.
Mrs. Sanchez said that you made a new friend today.
I did?
Is that who you were talking to just now?
I'm not supposed to talk to you about him.
Oh. Okay. In that case, how was school?
Fine.
His eyes dart nervously. Lloyd studies him. Something about the whole exchange has struck a disturbing chord deep inside. Now we're in Danny's bedroom later that night. Lloyd tucks Danny into bed.
Then I thought we'd do we'd go someplace for dinner. What do you think, huh? Does that sound like a plan? Hey, maybe you and me just go looking for some chicks together?
Okay.
Lloyd pulls the covers up to Danny's chin.
Danny, is your friend here right now?
Danny shakes his head.
Good. Then he won't know that we're talking about him. What's your friend's name?
Harley.
Oh. What does Harley look like?
I don't know. I haven't seen him. He said...
Danny stops.
It's okay. Look, I used to have an imaginary friend, too, when I was a kid. He didn't want me telling my folks about him, either. It was, like a secret club we had. Is that what you and Harley have?
Danny nods.
Oh. What did he say about you seeing him?
He said it wasn't time yet. Night, Dad.
All right. See you in the morning.
Danny's already asleep. We dissolve to Danny's bedroom a little later. Danny sleeps peacefully. The tangle of shadows cast by the trees outside the window sway on Danny's bedroom wall.
Danny! Danny!
Still, Danny doesn't stir. On the wall, the shadows coalesce into one, a harlequin. The harlequin shadow eases across the wall, its phantom bells tinkling. His harlequin-shaped shadow hand reaches toward Danny's face and caresses his cheek.
Danny!
Danny's eyes flicker open. He sits up, frightened.
Dad?
Nope. It's Harley.
The harlequin's right hand suddenly peels off the wall, assuming a dark, transparent, protoplasmic essence. Danny turns slowly. He watches the rest of the harlequin's shadow emerge from the wall and transform into protoplasm.
You wanted to see me, didn't you?
Danny nods, but he's not as sure as he used to be. The harlequin rolls his head to one side, as if getting out the kinks. Being here feels good. Better than where he was.
It's great to be here, Danny. But can we be honest? I'm pissed. You told your daddy about me, didn't you?
Danny gazes up at him fearfully.
Didn't you?
Danny nods. His fear is beginning to show, and that makes a strange thing happen. The Harlequin's protoplasmic essence shimmers and coalesces. He moans softly. This feels good.
Do it again and I'll hurt him. I guarantee it. Got it?
No.
Hold out your hand.
Danny hesitates. The Harlequin hisses at him.
Hold out your damn hand.
Danny does. The Harlequin puts his spindly protoplasmic finger to Danny's palm. Where the Harlequin's finger touches Danny, the Harlequin's finger glows like it was burning into Danny's flesh. When Danny screams, the Harlequin's protoplasmic form shimmers. Suddenly, the bedroom door bursts open. The light goes on.
Danny?
The Harlequin's gone. It's just Danny in bed, his palm outstretched.
Daddy?
Lloyd rushes to him, hugs him tightly.
I'm here. It was just a bad dream.
It wasn't, Daddy. I saw him, a man. He was here.
And he hesitates, slowly looks upward. On the ceiling, the Harlequin shadow looms, his protoplasmic gaze fixed on Danny. Cut to the French Quarter. Day. A voodoo act for the tourists. Long-suffering but loyal Jimmy DeRue in his 30s performs as Dr. Samedi for the tourists. His mom, Emmeline, calls him mid-performance. Jimmy breaks character and takes the call. Emmeline at home hunches over a card table covered with tarot cards. When she tells Jimmy he's back, Jimmy sighs wearily.
Christ's sakes, Mama, who's back?
Him, the Harlequin.
The Fool card and the Harlequin card lie side by side.
I hit all the booze.
She's cantankerous, earthy, and foul-mouthed. The most striking thing about her, cataracts have turned her eyes a haunting milky white. Emmeline is blind. Now we see her tarot cards are all in Braille.
I have not been drinking. I ain't been smoking anything either. It's in the cards. I was laying them out and he came up.
Ooh, can mean lots of things.
I was asking about your brother. How's he doing? Mardi Gras is coming up, you know.
Let's not be hasty, Mama.
I want your ass here. Now, ain't nobody safe if he's around.
We're at Emmeline's antique store a little later. Jimmy has just finished hammering a pentacross to the wall, a cross with a pentagram atop the vertical. In the center of it all sits Emmeline in a rocker, surrounded by pentacrosses.
They all up?
Mama, you could have made a mistake. And the cards... Well,
do not lie. Occasionally we misinterpret them, but in my entire life, I have never misread their message to me.
Jimmy sighs wearily.
I heard that.
Okay. All right. Let's say you have read the cards correctly. And let's say that that thing has gone from there to here. Fine. What the hell are we supposed to do about it?
That's a question for him.
Who? The Harlequin?
You know who I mean.
And Jimmy does. And he'd rather go ask the Harlequin.
You're going to have to do the asking. I don't want to see him.
I don't either. But there it is.
Jimmy looks at the tarot cards. The Fool card stares back. We're in the French Quarter. Day. Lloyd and Danny visit the Mardi Gras. But Danny finds the whole thing intimidating. He keeps seeing Harlequins. Lloyd's not having much fun either. Jimmy pilots a small boat with Emmeline aboard to DeRue's shack. Sound Q7. Oh, we missed the Sound Q7. Okay. Inside the shack, DeRue sits at a small wooden table, already weary with Emmeline. She wears a pentacross around her neck.
Where is he? Where's my boy? Did you think I wouldn't find out? How long's that thing been out?
A couple of months. A bunch of wildcatters did it. I don't think they found what they were looking for.
A couple months and you didn't do anything?
But there's not much to do, is there? Not yet.
You crazy old son of a bitch. Jesus, how can you live like that? Breaks my heart, that old house sitting empty.
The roof pounded on the table.
Fine, you have it. You shouldn't have come.
I want to know where my boy is. He's in danger. Doesn't that matter to you?
There's more at stake here than just him.
Don't do this. You can stop it.
She finds
Please.
Daru's hand.
Get out of here, Emmeline.
We're at the French Quarter. Meanwhile, the Mardi Gras continues. A parade marches down the street. Every bit of it terrifies Danny. A sudden gush of people separates Danny from Lloyd. All Danny can see are legs and moving bodies.
Dad?
A wicked laugh behind him. Danny turns.
Hey, kid.
Hands grab Danny. It's Lloyd. He senses Danny's fear.
Hey, you okay?
Suddenly, Lloyd senses the Harlequin. He turns, sees that the Harlequin is just another drunk reveler. The reveler Harlequin fades into the crowd.
He wasn't going to hurt you. He was just drunk, that's all.
Lloyd hoists Danny onto his shoulders. They head away. All the while, someone's watching them. Not just a Harlequin, the Harlequin. Later that night at Lloyd's house, Danny is still too afraid to go to bed. Lloyd lets him watch TV, but he soon falls asleep, leaving Danny by himself.
Daddy?
Lloyd is dead to the world.
Your daddy's a heavy sleeper, ain't he?
Danny opens his mouth to scream, but the Harlequin's hand flies to Danny's mouth, silencing him.
No screaming, not yet. We got business to take care of first.
Danny regards the Harlequin fearfully. His protoplasm ripples. He is now 1/3 shadowy protoplasm, 2/3 human. Danny pulls free, lurches toward the hall. The Harlequin is on him in a flash. He pins Danny to the wall.
You got spunk, kid. Reminds me of me. But do it again, and I'll kill Daddy. Guarantee. Oh, yes, I will. I'll take a beer bottle and smash it to his skull.
Danny whimpers fearfully, which makes the Harlequin coalesce even more. His horrible face takes shape, a skull with smatterings of flesh hanging from it. With one final burst of light, the Harlequin becomes totally, undeniably real. He pulls Danny to him, hisses into Danny's ear.
I owe you one, kid, but you won't like the paycheck.
He withdraws a handful of white dust from a pocket, sucks in a breath. As Danny screams, the Harlequin exhales, blows the dust into Danny's face. Danny goes limp. Though Danny's scream continues, it comes from somewhere otherworldly and hangs in the air. On the sofa, Lloyd snaps to. The Harlequin is gone.
Danny?
Lloyd rushes to him, picks up his lifeless form.
Danny!
Lloyd shakes him, but it's no use. Slowly dissolved to a cemetery. Day. Danny's funeral, it's understandably somber. Lloyd looking thunderstruck, Mrs. Sanchez, a few others. There's also a film crew working another part of the cemetery. A cameraman, sound man, producer, and on-air talent. Her name's Ruby Tyler. She's early 20s. On camera, she's polished, beautiful, and contained. But otherwise, she's a force of nature. Right now, Ruby's on camera.
Maybe you've tried other psychic hotlines and found them lacking. Maybe you've never tried one and are just curious. Whichever, a call to the Psychic Ways hotline will change your life. Dial the number at the bottom of your screen, and I guarantee you. Lenny, hold the roll.
Ruby's producer, Jane, steps up to Ruby, points off.
Let's relocate over there.
And do what? No. Lenny should get the funeral in the background. We're not bothering them. They won't even know we're here. Lenny, jump on it. Before they finish. Are we rolling?
Ruby stares into the camera as Danny's funeral plays silently in the upper left corner.
Maybe you've lost a loved one and want to communicate with them. At the Psychic Ways hotline, we can help you. Just dial the number at the bottom of your screen.
A cemetery worker seals Danny's crypt. Lloyd's friends try to comfort Lloyd, but there's not much anyone can do. Meanwhile, at Emmeline's antique store, Emmeline lays out tarot cards in a cross. She lays a card at the intersection, feels the card's braille imprint.
That doesn't make sense.
As I said, of course it doesn't, Mama. It's a tarot deck, not a missing persons bureau. The old man told us to stay out of it, and I think it's a good idea.
Your father wouldn't know a good idea if it sat on him.
Emmeline takes up the cards, starts again.
You're not finding Michael that way.
Mardi Gras in 2 days. If we don't find your brother, something terrible is going to happen, and he's not who I'm looking for. If I just figure out how to phrase the question.
Well, we don't want to mess with the Harlequin.
I know that. But if we can find him before he goes after your brother.
As she lays out more cards, Jimmy heads for the door. He now wears a pentacross around his neck, too.
I'll be at Smitty's. If I see any monsters, I'll come right on.
She lays down another card.
Nah, you ain't going to Smitty's.
The card she just laid down is the Hanged Man. Cut to the Hangman Bar, night. The Harlequin is there. He fits right in. A woman named Meg, dressed as the Queen of Pentacles, buys him a beer. Meanwhile, in a small video editing suite, Ruby and her crew are cutting her ad. But Ruby's eyes keep getting drawn to Danny's funeral. Meanwhile, back at the Hangman Bar, the Harlequin and Meg head for the ladies' room to have sex, just as Jimmy walks in the front door. In the bathroom, the Harlequin kills Meg, sucks out her soul. During the struggle, she wounds his face. Underneath the Harlequin mask, he's horrifying. Bone, sinew, and gooey eye sockets. The Harlequin takes Meg's face as his own. Then he leaves the bathroom and literally bumps into Jimmy DeRue, who's searching for him, the Harlequin. Then the Harlequin heads out the front door. We're at Lloyd's house later that night. Ruby arrives in a taxi. She rings the front doorbell. Lloyd answers.
Are you Lloyd Harrison?
Why?
Can I come in?
She doesn't wait for an answer. She pushes past him, already registering things in her head.
Was someone else here?
Who the fuck are you?
No, not a person.
All right, that's enough.
Lloyd grabs her, pulls her toward the door.
Mr. Harrison, you can throw me out of your house, but I am not going away. I know that your little boy's alive.
I'm calling the police.
Do it. If I'm wrong, the cops lock me up and throw away the key. But if I'm right, I can bring Danny back.
Cut 2. We're in the cemetery. It's that night. Grunting draws us toward Ruby and Lloyd. Ruby's been working the crowbar with no success. They're trying to unseal Danny's crypt.
Jesus, what did they seal this with? Cement?
As a matter of fact.
She hands the crowbar to Lloyd.
Your turn.
My son is dead. I took him myself to the goddamn hospital. They worked on him for an hour before giving up. Okay, he's dead.
And doctors and hospitals never make mistakes? All I know is the energy coming from this tomb is Votala, living energy. Your little boy's lying in there right now, scared out of his mind, and he's dying, but this time for real. Can you really walk away from that?
Though unconvinced, Lloyd takes the crowbar, inserts it, and puts his weight to it. The lid gives. Lloyd opens the coffin. To his and Ruby's horror, it's empty. We're back at the antique store night. Jimmy paces by the card table. Behind him, Emmeline feels at the cards. Something isn't right.
No point taking it personal, Mama.
Ain't what I'm doing.
Well, in a way, the cards were right. Half the folks in the bar were dressed like Harlequins.
Except I wasn't asking about any of them. I was asking about him.
He grabs the cards, shuffles, lays them out again.
Mama.
He turns over the top card. It's the Queen of Pentagrams.
What the hell does that mean?
Meanwhile, at Lloyd's house, Ruby is back to circling the living room, hunting for clues about Danny. Lloyd is back to being cynical. He's drinking, too.
should call the police.
You can if you want. I doubt they'll be able to help you.
Yeah, my walls telling you that? If you were in the cemetery before, how come you didn't realize something was wrong then?
I wasn't looking for it. I'm not omniscient. The power has to be turned on. It's like words in a book. You can't read the words unless the book is open. The book wasn't open till I watched the tape.
You got these feelings from watching a tape?
He stops where Danny died.
Tape's electronic. It stores energy, sometimes in the form of sound or picture or brainwave activity. That's what a psychic responds to, the energy. Yeah, definitely. There was another presence in this room. Mr. Harrison, can I call you Lloyd? How long have you owned this house?
7 years.
Have you ever had any intimations that it was haunted? No, that's not what this is. This feels more like a poltergeist or something darker. Where's Danny's room?
Moments later, they're in Danny's room. Lloyd watches Ruby from the door. He slowly circles.
Was there anything wrong with Danny in the last few days? Was he behaving differently in any way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Picks up a toy, feels its surface, puts it down.
He did start talking to an imaginary friend.
What kind of imaginary friend?
Danny's friend didn't want Danny talking about him. All right, kids are like that. When I was his age, I had one too.
Ruby sits on Danny's bed. The energy leaping from it is palpable. Danny's plaintive "Daddy" echoes in Ruby's ears. She puts a hand to Danny's pillow.
Was Danny afraid of his imaginary friend?
Well, the night he died, he didn't want to go to bed. He was afraid of something. He'd had a bad dream.
Do you know what it was about?
You think he was dreaming about his imaginary friend?
Were you ever afraid of your imaginary friend?
I don't know. I don't remember much of anything before I was 5. All right. I mean, everything just kind of jump starts in my head at the orphanage where I grew up.
Do you remember your parents?
I don't remember much of anything.
Except that you and Danny both had imaginary friends.
Are you suggesting that there's a connection between my imaginary friend and Danny's?
There's a very unusual energy emanating from you. I've never felt anything like it. I don't even know what it is, but it's the same energy I'm feeling from Danny.
Cut to the antique store. It's morning now. Emmeline lies in bed looking depressed. Jimmy enters carrying a tray with coffee and breakfast.
Don't go there.
I'm not hungry.
Well, maybe not this second. You aren't.
He stirs sugar into Emmeline's coffee, hands the cup toward her. She takes it. She's listening.
After everything went down, the old man took Michael into the city and got rid of him, right? Now, the old man's a hard ass, but I doubt he just left Michael on the street corner. The easiest thing to do would have been to take him to an orphanage. One-stop shopping. I mean, you know, it's so him, you know. I mean, therefore, if I can find the orphanage, I might find Michael.
You really think so?
It's worth a shot.
That's a good idea, Jimmy. A very good idea. So what'd you make for breakfast?
Cut to an old metal rusty sign, rusty with age. It reads St. Vincent Asylum for Underprivileged Orphan Boys. The sign sits atop a decrepit Victorian-era red brick building. Even in its glory days, this place was creepy. Inside, the orphanage is even creepier. Lloyd and Ruby stand at the decrepit service counter.
Actually, better than I remember it. The Mother Superior was the worst. We used to call her Attila the Nun.
A sister approaches.
I wish I could help you, Mr. Daru, but I'm afraid we don't have any record of a Michael Daru being here at the time you're asking about. In the past 30 years, we've looked after literally thousands of boys.
I understand, sister. I understand, but could I speak with the director himself?
I'm afraid she's in a meeting.
Right on cue. That's okay. Right on cue, the director's office door opens. Jimmy Daru emerges. He passes the service desk. Lloyd politely steps right out of his way.
Pas de quoi.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Moments later, the director's office. The Mother Superior looks up from her desk. She's a hideous spider of a woman, squat and terrifying. Lloyd can't help the words that gush.
Attila the Hun is still here.
Well, I'll be Lloyd Harrison. You made something of yourself. Is that Mrs. Harrison?
Oh, no, we're just friends.
If you say so. Wait a minute. You're on TV, aren't you? You're Ruby Tyler. We watch you all the time here.
Oh, that's always nice to hear.
Freaks out a few of the sisters, but it's amazing how right you are. And you, I expect, want to know who you are.
Well, I'm not the first to ask, am I?
I can't help you. The man who brought you here refused to tell us anything.
That man. Who was he?
I don't know. He wouldn't say.
The sister hands the Mother Superior an old manila envelope.
He left this for you. He said we were to give it to you if ever you came asking about your past. He wanted you to know that you came from a good family who loved you.
She hands Lloyd the envelope. Inside is an old photo, black and white, taken in front of a house out near the water. A young Armand Daru, a young Emmeline, a very young Lloyd, and an even younger Jimmy Daru. Off to one side is a beat-up old pickup truck. We don't know what color it was, but the make is exactly the same as the truck in the video game.
Is that you?
I think so.
Lloyd examines the truck in the photo.
License plate starts with a J.
St. Tammany Parish. That's where I'm from.
St. Tammany's. Right.
Cut to the swamp. A small motorboat slowly chugs along. Lloyd steers. Ruby sits beside him, holding the Daru family photo.
Are you getting any energy from it?
Doesn't work like that. Photos are created by light, not energy.
Isn't light energy?
Different kind. I met psychics who say they can read from photos, but they're full of shit.
She points to the man in the photo.
Is that the man who took you to the orphanage?
Could have been.
Suddenly, Lloyd remembers the scene vividly. He's a 5-year-old boy begging his dad not to leave him. Let's cut. Okay, good. He clings to his dad, terrified. Daru kneels, whispers in his ear.
I thought you said you was going to be brave for me. We'll see each other again someday. I promise. And you're going to forget about me for now. You hear? But just for now.
Wisps of energy rise from Daru's fingertips. The wisps disappear inside Lloyd's head. Daru stands, walks away. Young Lloyd watches his father go. He's forgotten. We're back in the present, floating in the swamp.
My father left me at the orphanage, but it wasn't because my parents were dead.
Then why did he leave you?
Lloyd looks off as if the swamp held the answer. As the boat drifts on, we pan off and find Daru's camp nearby. So close, yet so far. Later that afternoon, Lloyd's 4x4 cruises through the middle of nowhere. Inside, Ruby gazes at a map.
Either this road isn't on the map, or we should have turned left miles ago.
Well, how can we get back to where we came in? I mean, can't the energy tell you?
I'm a psychic, not a compass.
She turns the map sideways, turns it upside down, gives up, and throws the map into the back. Meanwhile, at the antique store, Emmeline's just had a revelation.
He's changing identities. That's what the cards were saying. I told you they never lie.
Well, you also said you never misread them.
I didn't misread them. I just didn't read them how I was supposed to. Never mind that. He was there last night, Jimmy. He was in that goddamn bar. He just didn't look how you expected.
Emmeline hurriedly lays out her stacks while Jimmy looks down at his paper. The lurid headline reads, "Vicious Murder in Quarter." Below it, a photo of the Hangman Bar. Below that, a driver's license photo of Meg. Jimmy vaguely remembers her face from the night before.
I bet he killed her. Some poor woman dressed like the Queen of Pentagrams, took her soul and God knows what else. It's not in the papers.
She turns over the top card. Justice.
He's still in the quarter. Down by the courthouse, maybe?
Jimmy stares at Meg's photo.
Does he still look like her?
Emmeline turns over another card.
For now.
Meanwhile, a road along the swamp. It's heading toward dusk. Lloyd's car stops. Lloyd's car isn't heading toward dusk. The time of day is heading toward dusk. Lloyd's car stops at a fork. Lloyd and Ruby, both annoyed, get out.
We've been driving around this goddamn swamp for over an hour.
Can we please just turn around and go back in the direction we came from?
Which way is that? We know the main road isn't that way. We've been there. Same goes for every other direction.
Well, then we should have turned left when I said to turn left.
We'd be just as lost as we are now, only be lost somewhere else.
He hesitates. A red pickup truck speeds at them, nearly hits Lloyd. Lloyd recognizes the truck. It's his father's. Lloyd and Ruby jump back into Lloyd's car and follow it to a clearing where they find an old lean-to. An old tarp covers the entrance. Inside the lean-to, they find a rusted old red pickup truck. It's on blocks, wheelless, engineless, too. It's been here a very long time.
I don't understand.
It was an astral projection. My whole career, I've never seen one.
It was a what now?
It was all in our minds, Lloyd. We both saw it. Do you know what that means?
He doesn't answer. He gazes at something behind Ruby, way behind her. They've just found the house from the photo. Cut to that night. Jimmy searches the French Quarter for the Harlequin. He's got Meg's photo in one hand, his cell phone in the other, and Emmeline on the other end.
How we doing? He's moving around, isn't he?
At the antique store, Emmeline turns over a tarot. No worries. At the antique store, Emmeline turns over a tarot card.
Not yet.
Meanwhile, Lloyd and Ruby approach the old house in the swamp.
I'm getting all kinds of crazy energy from this place, Lloyd. I'm scared.
I just want to look in the door.
Lloyd starts up the steps. Ruby reluctantly follows.
We could wait and do this in the morning when it's light.
The front door creaks as Lloyd opens it. As Lloyd explores the house of his childhood, the memories come flooding back, and they're not happy. Something in the house scared him then. It scares him even more now. In his old bedroom, Lloyd finds on the wall the silhouette of a harlequin. Lloyd remembers him as a kid, hiding in the bedroom closet while the harlequin stalked him. A pentacross still hangs there on the closet wall. That a pentacross protected Lloyd tells Ruby that Lloyd is a shaman or comes from a line of them. But Ruby and Lloyd aren't alone in the house. Let's do the old house. An alcohol-crazed swamp rat's been squatting there. He nearly kills Ruby and Lloyd. But when the swamp rat hears who Lloyd is, he softens. He knows the Holderoo family, he says. They were like kin, and he knows where Lloyd might find them today. Let's kill that. Great, good. In the French Quarter, okay, so he knows where Lloyd might find them today. In the French Quarter, Jimmy continues his hunt for the Harlequin while Emmeline works the tarot cards. The Harlequin, still wearing Meg's face, visits a sex arcade. There, he murders another young woman and sucks her soul from her body. On the street nearby, Jimmy continues searching with Emmeline guiding him via cell phone.
Jimmy, he's just changed.
Yeah, it's what?
In the antique store, Emmeline turns over a card. It's...
The world.
What does that mean? What does he look like?
I don't know.
Well, that doesn't help. I mean, is he male, female, world? What?
The cards don't say.
Well, of course they don't. The cards aren't really all that helpful now, are they?
Quit blaming the cards. We will always be the problem, and the Harlequin's still gonna be who he is. When you see him, look into his eyes, you'll know.
Great. Except then, I'll have to get close enough to do it.
Sound of Harlequin bells. Jimmy turns, sees a Harlequin emerge from the alley and head down the street.
Jimmy?
Hold on a second, Mama.
Jimmy follows the Harlequin's bloody footprints to an industrial part of town, to an old 3-story sugarcane mill. Water drips from the ceiling, catwalks run chaotically this way and that. At the center of it all is a huge industrial cane crusher. It doesn't end well for Jimmy. Though he plunges a hand scythe into the Harlequin's chest, the Harlequin is unaffected. He throws Jimmy into the crusher and stands over him. He suddenly recognizes his kin.
You're Armand's boy, aren't you? The other one. Well, what a surprise.
He pulls the hand scythe from his chest.
You're damn lucky I don't have any of my magic right now. Christ, I do all kinds of terrible things to you.
Please? I'm your grandson.
Like that's my fault?
The Harlequin plunges the scythe into Jimmy, killing him. Smash to Emmeline's antique store a little later that night. Emmeline holds the phone to her ear. Her calls won't go through. She turns, hearing the keys in the lock. The front door opens. The Harlequin enters wearing Jimmy's face, except Emmeline can't see that it's the Harlequin.
Mama, I'm home.
Jimmy, where the hell you been? I keep calling and calling.
The Harlequin hesitates at the door. He sees the pentacrosses on the walls. He can't hurt her inside. He shifts to plan B.
Did you find him? Jimmy, what's wrong?
I'm hurt, Mama. Hurt bad.
He draws Emmeline outside. When she follows, he grabs her.
Want to know what I did to your boy? I cut out his heart and I ate it. But don't worry, I'm letting you off easy, 'cause you ain't blood.
Suddenly, headlights. Lloyd's car screeches to a halt. Lloyd and Ruby launch from the car as the Harlequin slits Emmeline's throat. He goes after Lloyd next, catches him. But when he goes to stab Lloyd with his spindly finger, something in Lloyd's pocket stops it. A pentacross. Momentarily beaten, the Harlequin runs. Lloyd rushes to Emmeline. She looks into his eyes, calls him by his real name.
Michael, Michael.
You gotta hold on, Mama.
She can't.
Tomorrow night, only you can stop him.
Dissolved to Lloyd's office at Beaux-Arts. It's dawn. Lloyd slumps in his chair, weary, sad. Ruby slumps in the chair nearby, gazes at all the Harlequin artwork around her.
You think the Harlequin wanted to take over your body?
By exchanging my soul for his. That's probably what he's doing with Danny. Finishing what he started.
It's amazing how strong fear is. You remembered the Harlequin in spite of your father clouding you.
Jake enters, hungover.
This better be good.
Well, I'm sorry to do this to you, but it's important. Meet Ruby. My boy is alive. Someone, something is going to sacrifice him tonight out in the swamp.
Oh, this town just keeps getting crazier. And you call the police?
There's nothing they can do. And we haven't got time. I need to talk to the snake.
The snake? Oh, Jesus.
My kid's life is at stake. All right, all I have to do is plug us into the network and feed the signal into the computer here. We're looking for the kind of energy which the computer will sort from the rest of the shit. And whatever. And cell phone to my notebook. Put it out in the swamp.
What are you going to do with it out there?
Wire it to a set of electrodes and feed it to her.
Points to Ruby.
She's a psychic. The whole thing will work like a huge tracking device. If it works, I've got this right, don't I?
You got that right.
Now, even if I say yes, I mean, it could still take days to break into those other computers.
I don't have days.
Well, that's not even the hard part. I mean, you got a problem. You got a program to do all this?
I will.
It's a little later. Lloyd pounds away at the keyboard. Working up a sweat, he removes his sweatshirt and doesn't see his pentagross fall to the ground. Since Lloyd's working the keyboard, Jake runs out to pick up food. But when he returns a little later without the food, he acts strangely. In the kitchen, we get why. The Harlequin has killed Jake, too, to get into the house as Jake. He wounds Ruby, then turns on Lloyd. The Harlequin is way stronger. The Lloyd has lost his pentagross. There's a little latent magic in him. He learns. The magic saves him from the Harlequin. When Daru arrives unexpectedly, the Harlequin flees. Lloyd realizes who Daru is, his dad.
I told you we'd see each other again.
As the two men embrace, we cut to later. Ruby sits on a couch in the front room, holding a cold compress to the side of her head. Everything hurts.
I should have known it was him. Your boss must have thick skin to cover that kind of energy.
I always thought his skin was so thin. How'd you know he would come here?
We go back a ways, me and him.
Well, more to the point, why'd you let him get away?
Because I didn't time yet. He has to pick up with your son exactly where he left off with you. Now, he can't do that for another couple hours yet.
Pick up with? Are you crazy?
I didn't say we'd let him finish.
He's your father, isn't he? The Harlequin.
Well, that's complicated. He's not my father exactly, more like my father's soul.
That's why all three energies are the same. All four. You're all shamans.
Yeah, we got shaman blood. But only one of us can be a shaman. The eldest son of the eldest son. The day will come when the magic will be yours. But you better be careful with it, son. It's powerful shit. Dangerous, too. And it can make a good man do terrible things. That's what happened to my father. That's why he had to die.
Who killed him?
Second hardest thing I ever did. First was saying goodbye to you. Now, that night, I condemned his soul to hell.
That's what's under the swamp, isn't it?
Of a kind. We're his guardians, but we failed. Not only did a soul escape, one of our own. He played on your innocence. Your fear made him real. And on this night, 30 years ago, he tried to come back as a young shaman with a heart made of black magic.
Cut to the swamp. Night. The fog hangs heavy. Ruby's at the wheel. Lloyd and Daru sit amidships. A light on the bow illuminates their way through the soup.
You're doing fine. Now just keep on this heading. I misplayed this round. I put my money on the clock instead of finishing him. I sent you away and waited for your boy to get, past the danger zone, but we almost made it now. But once the process begins, you'll take your boy and you get on back on that boat.
What are you going to do?
I'm putting him back where he come from. That's the only place I can kill him.
What's going to happen to you?
Don't you worry. We'll see each other again.
A few moments later, Lloyd and Daru move slowly on foot through the thick vegetation. Lloyd glances at his watch. It's 20 to midnight.
Before midnight, right?
Before midnight.
They head toward the flickering lights ahead. As they pass a headstone, two dead things shoot from the grave. One goes for Lloyd. The other grabs Daru. Lloyd stumbles. Lloyd stumbles, dead thing on top of him. White light shoots from Daru's fingertips. It blows off the right arm of the dead thing attacking him. Then Daru blows off its head. Meanwhile, We discover a hole in the ground surrounded by black candles. The wreck of an oil rig rises from one side. Danny lies in the hole, bound and gagged and struggling. The Harlequin stands over him. He's back in his Harlequin costume. Now his face is down to bone mostly, and even that's rotten. The Harlequin turns toward Danny. He holds up a knife. Meanwhile, Daru uses his pentacross to fry one of the dead things. He turns to help Lloyd. Back to the Harlequin. He's just cut Danny's heel. Danny's blood puddles at the bottom of the hole. It's sacrificing time. But just as the Harlequin goes to kill Danny, Daru stops him. He and the Harlequin battle while Lloyd rescues Danny.
Hey, buddy, you okay?
He hurt my foot.
All right, we'll make it better.
Whip back to Daru and the Harlequin, struggling for the knife. Back to Lloyd. He's got Danny untied. They're about to run, but Lloyd can't just go. He's got to be sure the Harlequin is gone. Meanwhile, the Harlequin and Daru continue their fight. While Daru gains the advantage, he can't keep it. The Harlequin mortally wounds him and disappears into the fog. Lloyd tries to comfort Daru.
Can't seem to get this right. It's up to you now.
What should I do? How do I kill him?
Oh, you'll know. It comes with the territory.
He smiles enigmatically and dies. Suddenly, Lloyd's hands glow with magical power. He is now the shaman. Moments later, Lloyd searches the fog for Danny. He hears Danny's voice, except it's not Danny drawing Lloyd into the fog. It's the Harlequin. Ruby, meanwhile, has found Danny. She covers his mouth to keep him quiet. The Harlequin shoves to keep him quiet. Where'd I lose my place? But then the Harlequin finds them. The Harlequin shoves Ruby aside and turns to finish with Danny. He grabs the knife he used to kill Daru and pushes Danny into the hole. He rears back with it, sees Lloyd at the edge of the clearing.
Too late this time.
But when the Harlequin goes to plunge the knife home, his arm crumbles. The bone disintegrates into dust. Pieces of his costume flake off. Lloyd approaches, holds up his watch.
You're too late. It's after midnight. Game over. Come on, Danny.
Danny tries to climb from the hole, but the Harlequin holds on to him. Another piece of the Harlequin dangles and drops off.
You think you won? I may suffer eternal damnation, but I won't be alone.
The Harlequin pushes his remaining hand into Danny's back and pulls out his soul. Danny crumples to the ground, but his voice emanates from the glowing thing in the Harlequin's hand.
Danny!
Gotta go.
He dives for the hole, disappears into it. Lloyd lunges after him, but he's too late. Lloyd knows what he has to do. He leaps into the hole after them. He plunges downward. Reaching the other side, he crashes to the ground. Fog swirls just as thickly down here, except it's darker and danker. The Harlequin's voice seems to come from everywhere.
Not exactly Club Med now, is it? The weather sucks, the plumbing leaks, and wait till you see what's making that smell.
A specter suddenly flashes in front of Lloyd. It becomes the Harlequin. Lloyd swats at it. It vanishes.
Hey, try your magic. Go on. See what happens.
Lloyd holds up his hand. It glows for a moment, then sputters out.
Ain't that a bitch? Hey, kid, anything to say to your daddy?
Daddy, help me! He's hurting me, Daddy! He's hurting me!
You want him? You're gonna have to find him, and then you're gonna have to take him.
Ahead of Lloyd, the fog clears, revealing a rickety old bridge over a river. Lloyd starts across it, stops midway, and looks down at the water. Black, roiling liquid belches flame. The fire illuminates the bodies floating in its current.
Liking the view? I call this the bridge over troubled waters.
To Lloyd's surprise, the Harlequin is right behind him. His motley hat is now alive. The three tassels writhe like serpents. Holding Danny's glowing soul in his remaining hand, the Harlequin swats Lloyd into the side of the bridge.
I'm going to suggest they rename this part of hell DeRose, considering how many of us DeRoos were gonna be here.
He slips Danny's soul into his pocket, turns to finish Lloyd. Lloyd tries to crawl away. The Harlequin kicks him toward the edge.
I'm king of this hill, boy, and the king says you gonna die.
The face on one of the Harlequin's serpent tassels opens its jaws.
You got the family eyes, son. I want them back.
The tassel lunges for Lloyd's face. Lloyd dodges it, grabs for the Harlequin's hat.
Hey, don't fuck with the hat.
The Harlequin leans forward. The snake tassel coils pre-strike.
Come here, boy. Give me old great-grand. Give me old great-granddaddy a kiss.
The tassel lunges, takes off a piece of Lloyd's face, but just misses his eyes. Lloyd tries to squirm away. As the flames lick at him from below, something inside Lloyd's head clicks. He knows what to do.
Sure thing, Grandpa. No tongues.
Lloyd pulls the Harlequin's face to his own. The Harlequin resists.
What are you doing?
Getting to know my family better. Soul to soul.
Their faces merge. A surge of white light shoots through Lloyd's body. It meets a surge of darkness coming from the Harlequin. The light and dark surges collide. The white surge prevails. White light pours into the Harlequin. Lloyd plucks Danny's soul from the Harlequin's pocket and scrambles away. The Harlequin convulses to the beat of white light. His remaining body pieces fly this way and that. His serpentine tassels spark and pop. The Harlequin's head twists to one side. As it separates from his body,
That's it! You're out of the wheel!
He pitches from the bridge and explodes. As the smoke clears, Lloyd finds himself standing at the bottom of the hole the Harlequin hit. As he climbs from the hole, Ruby rushes to help him.
Where's Danny?
Lloyd goes into his pocket, retrieves Danny's soul. As if recognizing home, Danny's soul lunges for Danny's body and vanishes inside of him. Danny coughs, splutters back to life. Lloyd hugs him. Ruby kneels beside them, one arm around Lloyd, the other around Danny. Dissolved to the boat landing. A little later, Ruby, Lloyd, and Danny head for Lloyd's car. Running just ahead, Ruby slides behind the wheel and starts the car. Lloyd and Danny step into the glow of the headlights.
Are we safe now?
We find their shadows. Lloyd's shadow lengthens as he walks on, but there's something weird about Danny's shadow. Where Danny's little boy's head should be is the shadow of a tasseled Harlequin's hat. As Danny's shadow moves along, we can hear the sound. Wrong sound effect. We can hear the faint sound of a tinkling bell. Neither Lloyd nor Ruby can hear it. Fade out. There we go.